I've had a journey, small town, Portland, Oregon, then landing into here I am in Los Angeles, California. At some point early on, I had no idea that there was opportunity in music to the scale and the level that I'm at or the experiences that I've had in my time. And it was more so like my journey started as just being really great at throwing parties and, getting people together, showcasing my friends. A lot of my friends, they are musicians, especially growing up. And I was like, they're so talented. And I don't have a musical bone in terms of playing instruments, and I don't sing and I don't rap or anything like that. But I was so inspired by my friends. And so what I would do is I'd throw these parties, and I would be 17 years old, booking out nightclubs in Portland and using that time to go ahead and book the hottest DJ, which was DJ OG1 out of Portland. He DJ'd for the Trailblazers. And so I'd have him DJ, but I would use that time to really show off my friends and the talent in Portland. But I didn't realize for some reason, that was just what I did naturally. And I thought that I was actually going to work in sports. Music wasn't where I was going to end up working. And I'm at Oregon State. I ended up getting the job working at Nike after college. And then I said, okay, well, I think I want to get my master's degree. And so even before going to Nike, I let them know hey, I want to pursue my master's and I might have to end up leaving. They're like, that's okay. We want you to work with us. We want you to do these meetings and events. It was the global team. And so I said, okay, cool. I ended up getting the graduate assistantship at Syracuse. And that was really the determining factor because I'm the program was sport venue and event management. And at that time, I was like, okay, yeah, I can become the GM of a sports team. I can go ahead and run an arena that has music and sports and live events the monster truck shows and the Disney's on Ice, those sorts of events. I could totally do that. And so that's why I ended up going to Syracuse for that purpose, mainly to work in sports. But I had this desire of still wanting to do things in music. So I was still booking artists, doing events. I'm at Syracuse. And literally what's funny is I had ended up introducing myself in the first day for the graduate class. And I'm Sierra Lever. I'm from Portland, Oregon. And the question is oh, what do you want to do? And I said, oh, I want to produce the Grammy Awards. And they're looking at me crazy, you're in a sport management program. But for me, I was yeah, I know, because my plan A is in sports. My plan B, I have no idea how to get there, what to do. But I know this direction. And so I had said that. And most of the people, they thought I was crazy for keeping on to that, dream and that desire. Throughout the entire year, fast forward, I ended up landing an internship at the Recording Academy. And the cool thing about that is it was my second time applying for an internship with that program. So I had ended up, first time applying, I applied to every single chapter around the country when I was at Oregon State. And I didn't hear back at all. So I'm okay, I'm at school again. I'm at Syracuse. This is my second opportunity to go ahead and apply. And so I did, but I only chose one location, which was Los Angeles in the headquarters, because that's really where I really wanted to be. And so I did that, but I also ended up going online and scrolling to find any sort of a blog. It was kind of around time of Tumblr. And so I'm scrolling. I find that they have a blog and I'm just going. And I finally see, oh, here's a post about an internship. And here is someone's actual email address. So I email that email address And I'm like, who knows what's going to happen? Like, either the person is still there in that position and they respond, either they end up, not being there and I get a bounce back, or they're there and they're in a different position and they forward it along, or they ignore me. But either way, I now have like a direct contact to go ahead and say, hey, I applied for this. And so I ended up emailing, and the woman, her name's Yvonne Faison, she responded and she was like, Sierra, your writing is amazing. And, your narrative essay, because I had to write an essay about like why I wanted to work for the Academy and in music and the Grammy Awards and everything. And so I ended up doing a Skype interview with her after. But the crazy part is when I sent her my application, she told me that my application was blank and she only had my essay. And so my heart just like dropped, because I'm like, this is like first impression. This to me is like something that I usually am on point with. Like, now she's seen like, oh, like what happened to the application. So I ended up sending it back to her. I really still to this day don't know what happened, but that was actually that was my first entry point into the music industry, because I landed the internship. We did the Skype. It went amazing. And I was the first out of my class to go ahead and land an internship. But it was also with the place and the company that I went into, telling them where I wanted to go, and I think I always draw back to that moment as like the power of manifestation, the power of having vision, and to go ahead and like speaking it out into existence and knowing that, hey, I've seen this actually happen before. So anytime there's challenge in the future that I have, or even today, I know I can always draw back to that moment to remind me of what exactly there is, the power is in speaking things into existence of what it is that you truly want. And I approached it as having a plan A and a plan B. Plan A was sports, plan B was music. And I think when I look back on it, I'm like, whatever's on your heart, make that your plan A. For myself, I said, oh, I know how to get a job in sports. I know how to do these certain, things. But what really drives me is working in music and working with talent and artists and making these memorable experiences happen. So it's like, always go with your gut, go what's on your heart. I landed the internship with the Recording Academy, and then I flew to LA. I spent some time as an intern. I ended up temping after the fact. So I worked as a temp in the awards department. I ended up temping in the executive office with the president. And I'm like, at that time, looking for a permanent job. I wanted to work there, and there just wasn't any roles opening up. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to figure out something. I got to start my career. Like, I got to figure this out. And at that point, I was still trying to figure it out. And I'm like, well, I have all these skill sets. What would make the most sense? And I stumbled upon like marketing roles, where I'm like, yeah, in marketing, you have to have the full on vision of whatever project you're putting together. And so I ended up landing the job at the Los Angeles Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra. And for me, I knew nothing about classical music and like world music, and there was a lot of jazz. And so I took the job, and I ended up using that as a way to learn about those different genres of music. And it was such this prestige institution and all the shows. So from there, I saw Kendrick Lamar do a show with the National Symphony Orchestra in DC. And I was like, why aren't we doing this? We are in LA, and he is from LA. And I was so frustrated because I felt like I was trying to connect culture and moments, and it just wasn't able to move at a fast pace like I wanted to. And I ended up saying, okay, at this point, I want to work with my friends now. I'm like building my relationships, and I landed a role at Capitol Records and in their marketing department. And at that point, Capitol Records and Motown ended up merging their marketing teams. And so when I first started, I was working along like pop acts. I'm a coordinator at the time. I'm learning from, the VP of marketing, and she has like Niall Horan from One Direction, Sam Smith, Katy Perry. I'm working these pop acts, and then the merge happens. And so then I end up working both pop and urban. And so that was really at the time where Ethiopia, who was the president and chairwoman of Motown Records, she did her deal with quality control. And so they ended up coming over. And so the rise of Lil Yachty and Migos and City Girls and Lil Baby, like really flooding the streets is what they did with music. And just to see like that impact there on culture and be a part of that on the label side, like, was really inspiring. And to be able to have both those experiences of how to create fandom with pop acts and then also how to create fandom with hip hop, that was interesting to see. And I ended up going to Columbia Records a few years later. I wanted to just see like different styles of marketing. And I had gone to Columbia Records, and Felicia Fant and Sean Holiday, they're both running the urban department, and they hired me on as a marketing director. And so when I was there, what was cool about it was I was working acts that I see as like really genre bending, and some who wanted to be defined as like genreless. So when you think about like Lil Nas X and the Kid Laroi, Polo G, 24K Golden, Baby Keem, Chloe and Halle, Fabio Foreign, like I had like a really insane roster of talent. And I just felt like time just really shows like over time, when you look back, why each step was able to prepare you for the next step, right? And then at that point, I ended up saying, okay, it's time for me to leave. And it was really hard. It was hard to leave because you get attached to your artists and you see them grow and evolve. And all of those artists were really young. You think about Kid Laroi, I think was like 15 years old, So artists that are in their teens and their early 20s, and seeing them just evolve over time is really special. But I said, okay, it's time for me to pivot. And I think it's important that you know when to pivot in your journey. And I ended up landing a role over at Amazon Music, and I was doing label relations. And so when I look back, now I'm in this role working with all the different labels, and I'm the genre lead. And so it's like all the majors and indies for hip hop and R&B. I really enjoyed it because I was able to still work with talent that I've worked with over the years. And oftentimes on the label side, you have, this is my roster, I'm solely focused here. On the streaming side, I was in a position where I can go back and work with them, or to learn about and meet new artists and managers and just like build that network and be able to look at music from up here instead of being so much on the ground every single day. And then I've been at Amazon for, almost 3 years. And I ended up getting a promotion to lead our hip hop and R&B team. And our brand rotation is the home for hip hop and R&B at Amazon Music. What's up, y'all? I'm Sierra Lever, and you're locked in to 24/7 HH.